how do you define humour?
Humour creates laughter, but actually sometimes you don't even need something humorous to happen.
My heart rate has increased, I can't lie.
Is it good? That's all right, that's okay. Yeah. Never
speak
2
undertakers. There we go. And there's no greater connection I seek than if I can get a smile out of somebody. The one thing I can say humour isn't.
Welcome to the Being Human podcast with Amelia Vegting and Jez Francis. Brought to you by Just Add Water.
Hi, I'm Amelia Vegting.
And I'm Jez Francis. Welcome to the 7th episode of the Being Human podcast, where Amelia and I explore what it means to be human in this world we find ourselves living in. So, Amelia, I've hardly seen you in the last few weeks. Tell everyone what you've been up to.
I know, it's great to be back in the studio, but it has been an exciting couple of months. A little while back, I was in Singapore for the first time, meeting our Just Add Water team over there. It was brilliant to see our offices, meet them in person rather than over Zoom like I have been doing for the last 3 years. They showed me around the city and just, shared all sorts of things about what they've been up to. It was really great to meet them.
And then you were on a holiday in Bali, weren't you? So come on, what did you enjoy most about that trip?
I know, it was absolutely fantastic. 2 highlights would have to be going snorkeling with manta rays and turtles. There's something very angelic about watching those creatures in the sea.
Oh, don't you imagine?
Whilst we're all flapping about at the top of the water.
Yeah.
Not nearly as graceful, but it was just brilliant.
And so with all that going on, let me ask you, did you manage to find time to do any reading, which was your habit, if you recall, from our episode with Alice?
Yes, I did. I do think there's something about a beach and a sun lounger that sets yourself up very well for reading. So I did manage to finish my book called Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus, which was absolutely brilliant. And I think if maybe I need to read another book, perhaps I should book another holiday. That sounds like that's how I'm going to keep up my habit. But I would highly recommend that read. It was really good.
Good. Okay, so one to add to my reading list then.
Absolutely.
And then you were back in the UK briefly before you headed off on a job in China. So tell us a bit about that.
Yes, it was a Just Add Water job in Shanghai where we produced a 3-day conference for one of our global clients. I mean, it was extremely hard work, but incredibly rewarding and always incredible to see the whole event come together. One of my roles was managing the content of which the majority was in Mandarin. So that was a first and a first for me and a big challenge, but a really, really great experience. And, hopefully we'll be back out there soon.
Well, look, whilst you and some of the team were flying the flag abroad, I've been busy helping to look after things here, including, excitingly, off the back of a conversation that we had on the podcast with Ben a few episodes ago, some sessions for one of our clients on how to nurture creativity amongst their leaders, which was an awful lot of fun. On the home front, Lily, my daughter, has finished her GCSE exams, which is lovely for her. She's looking forward to a carefree summer spent mucking about with her friends. And my band, The Wasters, well, we've played a series of gigs, including a little mini festival birthday party that involved a stage, a big marquee tent, some bars, some food stuff going on,
Beautiful.
A dance floor, a big fire. So that was great. So we're waiting for Glastonbury to call. Maybe not. But all that aside, it's lovely to have you back here and to be recording the podcast again. Shall we get into today's topic?
Absolutely.
A while back, we asked you, our listeners, which themes you'd like us to explore. And the strong favourite by a country mile was humour. So that's what we're going to get into today. Now, the temptation to try and say something funny now is compelling. And I know how much you love my jokes, Amelia, but
yes.
The subject of humour is so much more broad than that.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you've said that, because I will admit when we first started talking about humour as a subject, I was initially a little bit nervous because I just felt this pressure to have to try and be really funny from sort of a stand-up comedic sense. And that's just not something that I think I would describe myself as naturally. So, really good point.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, and I'm sure there's going to be people out there who would feel the same way. But that's the thing about humour, I think, as a subject, and why I think it's a great one to discuss, in that there's just so much to it. It's so nuanced in so many ways. There's something really magical that happens when we're able to welcome more levity and lightheartedness into our lives, both at work and at home. and even in the most difficult situations as well. Over the years, I've seen humour used both consciously and less consciously, diffuse tension, build bridges, help create a sense of belonging. It's a real superpower, I think. And I'm keen to learn more about why that is and how to harness it.
This is a fascinating and really interesting subject. And I think actually what would be good is to introduce our guest to the podcast to help us delve into all things humour.
Great idea. Let's go.
Our guest joining us today is the one and only actor, author, writer and comedian Neil Mullarkey. Now, you might recognise Neil from his performances in Whose Line Is It Anyway?, 2 Austin Powers movies and last year's The Pentaveret on Netflix. He still performs most Sundays with the Comedy Store Players, who are Europe's top improv troupe, which he co-founded with Mike Myers. Neil now travels the world bringing the skills of theatre and improv to his clients, within which humour plays a key role. Neil, welcome to the Being Human podcast.
I was about to sneeze then.
I did see you go.
I thought that wasn't a good way to say, hello, Neil, it's achoo. But I was thinking laughter and sneezing, and there's something else, are kind of involuntary reactions, aren't they? There is communicative laughter when you laugh to make somebody feel at home, and spontaneous laughter. Anyway, thank you very much, Amelia. I'm delighted to be here. Hello, Jeremy, as well.
So, Neil, before we get into everything humour, can we ask you a few questions just to get to know you a bit better?
Okay.
If you could travel back in time, which era would you visit and why?
I'd probably go back to when I was 5. So the 1960s. And we lived in France. My dad had applied for a job and they said, no, you can't have that job, but there's one in Paris. So my first memories of life are in France because we moved when I was 2, so I don't remember that. So, and then I was sad to leave France. And there was a walnut tree in our garden. I said, one day I'll be back. And I haven't yet come back. So I want to go back to that tree and say hello. So that's a bit sad. Were you hoping for Cavaliers or Roundheads or
No.
Stone
Whatever.
Age? Yeah, I was
whatever
trying to think,
you wanted.
which would I like? I kept thinking, well, what have you got poorly? That was my issue. Medicine.
Yeah.
It's all pretty good. But central heating, showers.
Yeah, we quite enjoy those.
Yeah. No, there are aspects of modern life that are actually rather pleasant, aren't there?
Yeah.
So, Neil, what's a talent that you have that not many people know about?
They might not know my prowess at table tennis.
Oh.
Yes. So one of the teachers at school was actually quite a big noise in the English Table Tennis Association. He was the referee of the English Open Championship. So we played against men's teams in an adult league. And then because he was referee of the World Table Tennis Championships in 1977, when I hadn't been born actually, but he got me to be his assistant. And they all had these umpires and the officials had a particular kind of blue blazer. But I was not allowed to wear that, but my mum knitted me one in the same colour.
Oh.
And Neil, so what's made you smile this week?
Well, again, a boring answer. I thought about this and I thought, oh, children. But no, they're both in the midst of exams, so they're not particularly smiling at the moment. But on Sunday night, I smiled a hell of a lot because it was the Comedy Store Players. And we had Stephen Frost, who's marvellous. Ruth Bratt was our other guest. And we sometimes get difficult styles, film or theatre styles. And somebody suggested Hamilton. And she sang a Hamilton story set wherever in the song in the Laundrette with Ishani Perrin-Panagam playing the piano, and it was just amazing.
And it
So
worked.
I did more than
Brilliant.
smile. I just kind of wept with envy. But the Comedy Store Players make me laugh week in, week out. It's just a joy. I get a free ticket every week to watch other people doing funny.
Neil, what is the most boring thing about you?
Well, I think I've answered that 3 or 4 times already.
Give us another.
I like making lists. I must say that. I like tidying my desk, although it's quite untidy most of the time. I like a bit of predictability, but also I've come to love walking. I don't think that's boring, actually, but I come to love since lockdown. I've walked a lot. Just that time I remember when I walked to the Comedy Store and Carnaby Street, Piccadilly Circus, literally not a soul there. So now I just walk and I think, oh, this is nice. I can have a walk and I'll get off one tube stop early. But I'm sure there's something much more boring about me as well.
Well, lists are good.
Yeah, lists are very good. Are you someone who writes lists of things that you have already done in order to get that satisfaction
Yes,
of ticking them
of
off.
course.
Yes, we all are.
Are you someone that sees joy in things quite readily? You strike me as someone for whom a smile is never too far away.
That's right. I think that's right. I do worry about myself because I don't think I understand people who aren't like that. And I know people are, and I'm in contact with them much of the time. And all I think is, a bad thing happened. Of course, I've had a bad day, but the day doesn't go too long until I realize, that's something, and that's tragedy, but comedy will come out of it in time. I generally think people are trying to help me, and if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. So I've had all sorts of disappointments in life and wrong turns, but in the end, I think, well, that's okay because it led me to that place. Who knows? You can't undo stuff. I think that's probably my sense. So I will smile, and I do like smiling at strangers. And I wonder if I can get away with it, but just kind of, I always like it in other countries where they just smile at you. In the countries, people smile. Whereas in London, they might kill you. But I just
although there's a marked difference, isn't there, between a sort of a smile and a sort of a forced smile or a grimace that can actually be quite terrifying, I think.
I'm curious, how did you go from social sciences as an undergraduate into the world of acting, comedy and improv?
Well, I always wanted to do comedy. I was in the school play, and it turned my head because I wanted to be a doctor. I did maths, physics, chemistry, A-levels.
Oh, wow.
And so I wanted to be a doctor. And then I was in the school play, and I thought, no, I want to be in show business. And I'd heard of the Cambridge Footlights because Monty Python, Peter Cook, and many others. So I thought, I want to go to Cambridge. I was fed up with science at that stage, or maybe I was more interested in economics, actually, about real life and things and organizations, I suppose. And what I really wanted to do there was actually social and political science. And at Cambridge, you couldn't do that for 3 years. It was so odd. You had to do a grown-up subject first. So you had to do a part one of something else. So I did 1 year of economics and then transferred to SPS, social and political science. So by that stage, I was on the Footlights Committee, along with Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie. They were the big grown-ups, and Emma Thompson. They got me on the committee. I was the treasurer in my second year. My dad said, "Is this what you want to do?" And I said, yes. He could see how much I enjoyed it, and I'd, done pretty well to get on the Footlights Committee. So that was what was already happening. So I chose to go to Cambridge, and the subject was secondary, which is a shame because I really enjoyed it. And I've done a lot of reading, I suppose, in the last X years about that stuff. And that's probably why I've now sort of come out of comedy in some respects and gone back to something which is akin to my social science, social psychology training that I got at that stage. So it's kind of, I started dipping my toe into the world of management training. And there was a whole subculture of this, of people borrowing skills from theatre and beyond to help people, leaders and help people in organizations to do their jobs better. And improv was an absolute godsend to them because it was all about dealing with uncertainty. It was all about being creative in uncertain times, ambiguous times. It was about dealing with people. And improv at its heart is just listen, work with what you're given. Don't be too stuck to a certain agenda. Be flexible. And actually, the byproduct is have a laugh.
And see where it takes you. Let's dive into the topic of humour. How do you define humour?
Oh dear, you start with the difficult ones. I don't know. Humour creates laughter, but actually sometimes you don't even need something humorous to happen. We just laugh because it's surprising. Or I love laughter yoga, which says maybe a joke will upset somebody. So we just sit there and laugh together. Somebody starts laughing and it becomes viral. As we know, it's incredibly viral. So humor to me is something where we can share a smile, a moment of levity. We might laugh. It's not necessarily a huge guffaw. It may be a shared moment of recognition. And I think recognition is something that's fun. That we go, oh yeah, that's true. But also the surprise. So there is no rule of comedy, really. Sometimes say the most obvious thing, sometimes say the weirdest thing. The one thing I can say humor isn't laughing at somebody. Putting them down, that banter. It's just banter when I said a horrible thing to you. I don't think that's humor. Humor to me is something human, sharing our shared experience, our equal sense that we're all vulnerable, we're all frail, we're all illogical, And that to me is what it is. That's very high level, but humor is something that could be just a smile. It can be an email PS. It can be a huge laugh when somebody falls over deliberately. Or when you're on the improv stage and you say what everyone's thinking, or you say the most weird thing that even you didn't know where it came from.
Have we all got access to it then, do you think?
Yes. People ask me this a lot, and they say, and they'll say, accountants, they're a bit dull, aren't they? And I work with accountants all the time, and they're great. The other day, I was working with a big hotel chain, and who was the person who was funniest? We could barely get him off the stage. The CFO, the financial director. Everyone has a sense of humor. It's different. For some, it's silly, some it's wordplay, but generally we'll all find something funny. And I think that was something that came to me fairly recently. Your job as a leader is to find what makes your team laugh as individuals, because not everyone wants to dress up on Comic Relief Day. Not everyone wants a hilarious Oscar Wilde pun. On the other hand, and I sort of found an article today, is that the variables are age. So children want toilet humor. I'm not sure we ever quite grow out of that, but then we're a bit awkward in our teenage years. We like to laugh at things that our parents don't get. Mm-hmm. And then we're a bit older, we're a bit more forgiving of ourselves and others. So as I've toured the world, introducing improv humor to all sorts of people, all sorts of different organizations, different countries, I found we all have a sense of humor. Because I'm doing improvised humor, I'm not doing jokes. Did you hear the one about, and I referenced Theresa May or Tesco or whatever, they won't know who they are, but generally it's in the moment humor. And this is what I would say to people in organizations, that tiny moment where you mentioned something they mentioned half an hour ago. And I think the best example I would have is, this is about the only thing I've taught my children, I think, is when you see somebody with a big hat, your reaction might be, oh, that's a big hat. But I've taught them to go, oh, it's a shame he couldn't get a bigger one. And that to me is humor that transcends any barrier. That slightly ironic thing of noticing something, lateral thinking. Often, as I've done these things in Shanghai, Singapore, Brazil, Eastern Europe, America. It's basically, if you do little moments of where you say what somebody said, you might deliberately mishear. Cheese? You want some chicken? Or just that. It doesn't have to be funny. But I believe everyone has a sense of humor, and it crosses cultural borders.
So just as you're talking there and talking about how everybody has access to a sense of humor, why do you think we find it an attractive quality in others?
Well, I love people who make me laugh, and it's the most wonderful, flirty thing you can do. We all know what I mean by that. Yeah. And in the back pages of Time Out, for example, a listings magazine in the old days, it would often ask for GSOH, good sense of humor. Because if you can't laugh together, there are moments when you're cross with each other or moments of adversity. That's going to be a shame. So if we can't overcome them with humor, I think it's deeply attractive. I mean, you could look at psychology. I've got a friend, Professor Nigel Nicholson, emeritus professor of psychology and organizational behavior at London Business School. And he's a Darwinian. So that sounds all tooth and claw, doesn't it? The survival of the fittest. And actually says, no, it's how societies evolve, they adapt and change. And I said, why is sense of humor deemed to be a quality we want?
Yeah.
And he said, actually, because it's a sign of bringing people together. In the primitive societies, the way they advanced was sharing food, sharing resources. And if you can make people laugh and seen as that, then you begin to bring people together. There's a connectedness over and above, shall we say, the day-to-day primitive needs. But I feel connected. Oh, we're laughing together. You're not going to kill me. Sort of thing.
There's an emotional sort of bond of trust, isn't there?
I think there is. And there is no greater compliment you can pay to someone than laugh with them.
Yeah.
And there's no greater connection I seek than if I can get a smile out of somebody. It's always a gentle thing, maybe something they've said or taken the mickey out of myself, where I'm the butt of it, whatever. Or often it's just a simple, what we do in improv, it's the callback or the reincorporation, which is something they've said earlier and you throw it in later. you would say that because you've just been skiing or something. It's not, but it's not ha ha ha, but it's just something they've mentioned something. 10 minutes later, you throw that reference in. The callback, which is such a great thing in sitcoms and movies. Curb Your Enthusiasm, the dog, the object, the person, the mispronunciation, then becomes a whole big deal. And we love that recurring joke. I can get somebody to warm to me and get a smile if I repeat what they've said or, riff with them based on something they gave me. And that's why the humor I talk about is non-confrontational. It's actually, it's authentic. They've said it to me, then they've set that space up for me to play in, if you like. And so I know that it's the easiest laugh I can get, if you like, without creating any disorder or malevolence or unease if I show I've listened because I've brought back a tiny word they've said. And people will notice it who come see lots of improv shows. And they say, well, I do that quite a lot, actually, now. All I need to do is throw back a thing that they've said and we get a smile. And that's one of the things I would say at networking, which is awfully dispiriting for some people, is just ask a few questions and then get them to chat about what they like, because we love talking about ourselves. There's all sorts of good chemicals that happen when we're talking about ourselves. And then ask a few questions and then throw in a bit later and then introduce them to somebody else, reincorporate something they said. Oh, she likes skiing, but she's, frightened of cheese or something like that.
What sort of practical things can people do if they want to use humour more often to build bridges or to diffuse tension or whatever it might be? What tips have you got?
Be careful.
Yeah.
I found a study, which is if you try to be funny and fail, it's worse than not trying.
That's interesting.
So we know that.
Why are you looking at me, Amelia?
Someone immediately comes to mind.
That's what I would say is people have this sense humor is the preserve of some people who are professional comedians and is dangerous because it might alienate somebody. And of course it can. So I found that there's different types of humor. Affiliative, I mentioned before, which is we're laughing at ourselves. We're laughing at how dire the situation. Gallows humor, the moment to break the tension. Disaffiliative is we're laughing at the outsider. And there's the other one, which is people do to themselves, which is I'm rubbish, I'm terrible, which is taking self-teasing too far. I'm rubbish, I can't do it. Nobody likes me. And you're creating sort of a loop in your head.
It's almost like a self-confirming narrative.
Yes, a self-defeating narrative. And that's what Frank Farrelly said. I'm satirizing self-limiting beliefs. Anyway, humor is dangerous if you're trying to do it as a big thing with a capital H. All I say is use the improv humor that I would say we do in the moment. Just a gentle notice of what somebody's got. Say in their background, you can see what's in my background. I can see guitars in your background. We could just talk about that for a minute. And I could say, well, Jez, you're clearly, you should be, an Axeman. You should be in Led Zeppelin or something, or some more modern reference.
Keep talking.
But you see, I could just kind of try that out, try a little story. So what I would say is you don't have to be a joke teller.
Right.
Jokes are closed-ended. Jokes are fine, but not everyone likes a joke and they kind of stop. Whereas running humor is fun, running jokes, mentioning what somebody else mentioned, holding up a sort of slightly exaggerated version of what you might do, a crazy idea, how do we solve the problem? Of course, then that opens up ideas that might be more realistic. But don't try and be a joke teller. I would say encourage the moments when laughter can happen. Be a good laugher. Be a good laugher.
Go on. What do you mean by that? That's interesting.
Well, just when moments, just like, we all laugh. We can't. Okay, I was pleading on, but at a certain point I couldn't stop myself, and you couldn't help it. So just laugh. Allow laughter. And even if you've got a weird laugh, that's fine.
Because there is something really contagious about
it's
laughing. I mean,
contagious.
I've seen those videos online of, you have somebody who's laughing on the tube and you can't tell what on earth this person is laughing at. But then suddenly everybody's up in the carriage, like looking at them and they're all laughing as well. It is contagious. You're right.
So yeah, exactly. So find ways to find moments of humor, to bring those who do it naturally and into the moment. Just tiny things like how do you start a meeting, especially on Teams or Zoom or whatever, or Google video calls. Start with a moment of humor. Maybe just somebody's got an object this is my cat, or this is what I'm pleased that's happened today. Something, it doesn't have to be very profound, doesn't have to be very funny either. So there's a book called Humour Seriously.
Yeah, it's a brilliant book.
Excellent book. And basically their thing, it doesn't have to be a massive laugh. It just has to be appropriate.
Yes.
It almost is a smile, or right, you've put the dots together with there. It could be massive laugh. It could be a smile. And comedians, we have a kind of, calibration, a guffaw, a round of applause, a titter, a smile, or groan, whatever. We've got this calibration. So those are all allowed. So don't try and go for a massive joke. You can see so many times when people have done it in corporate presentations. Somebody once told me their CEO came on to the theme of Rocky in a sort of robe with the boxing glove, dun, 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 and then went to the lectern and then started reading out their chairman's or the CEO's report. Hello, everybody. Without humour, no explanation.
I'm feeling uncomfortable just imagining it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I would say don't try and do jokes. So when I help people with presentations, I say just tell me what's on your mind. Tell me a story. It doesn't have to be hugely funny, but it kind of could exemplify a point. Tell me that something is a bit embarrassing. One of my friends is a very successful entrepreneur, and he said he would do speeches and he'd talk about the successes and he'd never get booked again. When he talked about his failures with a smile, he'd get continual booking. So in a way, remember, tragedy is comedy is tragedy plus time. So if a humorous story where you're the butt of the joke, I think that's fine in a presentation. It also sends the message that humor has the wider sense of it does purge darkness. We've overcome this moment. As a leader, if I say a story when I was a bit rubbish in the past, it says to people it's okay to fail or to make a mistake. We can come through it if we learn from it. So there are lots of reasons why I think we should have humor, but don't try to impose it. Just see where it's happening, encourage more of that.
Neil, we wondered whether, as we've got you, we could do some kind of improv activity that you could lead Amelia and I into to experience the joy of improv firsthand.
Well, exactly. The easiest one is where we do one word at a time. Okay. So, I'll be number 1. Jez is 2. Amelia 3.
Gotcha.
We'll just start by doing a proverb. Never do this, always do that. Okay. So it might be, it lasts 3 words. It might last 2 words, or it might last 10. We'll see. So here we go. Just say your number. 1,
2,
3.
Notice the energy. They did it quickly. So here we go. They're not worrying too much about being right or good. They're just going to throw myself in with a certain energy.
My heart rate has increased. I can't lie.
Is it good? That's all right. That's okay. As long as it's not too much and you're going to start punching me, that's fine. It's heightened awareness. That's fine.
Yes.
Mine has as well. So here we go. Always
look
out
for
pelicans.
There we go. That's fine. Deep wisdom. Now, what we have to do, and listeners can't see me do it, but I'm putting my fingers to my head and going deep wisdom. Deep wisdom. So always look out for pelicans. Okay. So that was it. So part of the offer you sometimes, that's the end one, Okay. We could have just gone always look out. So part of the fun is that's the end. And I go deep wisdom. There we go. Because Amelia, for example, when Jez paused slightly before pelicans, didn't he?
Yeah.
What was in your head? What might you have said there?
I would have said birds, I think, because I have a fear of birds, so I'm always on the lookout for them. So pelicans is a perfect one for me.
To be honest, I had nothing in my head because that is my training as an improviser. You don't know what the hell's going to go on. You do know that if we do it quickly and with energy, it'll be great because that's the joy of it rather than thinking my word's got to be the best word ever.
Yeah, with too much pressure.
Let's have a go this time. Let's do another proverb. So here we are. Never
speak
2
undertakers. Deep wisdom. There we go. Unless somebody's dead. Yeah. So I was going through a mental Rolodex of all the jobs I've described and thinking, I better not say that. Which is, you don't want to self-censor. That's a terrible thing. So anyway, we'll try a story. So this is going to be, I think, Chris. This is a day out at the
zoo.
Well, it's interesting because that's the one I always use. So we'll go, yesterday I went to the zoo. Okay, I'll just get us in the zone. So yesterday
I
went
to
the
zoo.
Sadly,
my
trolley,
fell,
Into
the
lion's
mouth.
and
he
Started
to
cry.
in
pain,
Then
a
pelican,
shot
across
the
enclosure,
and
hit
the
side
of
gorillas.
enclosure,
then
A
child,
helped
the
pelican,
remove
its
beak,
from
the
side,
of
the
gorillas,
arse. Right. Now, we all thought arse. I was trying to get somebody to get the trolley out of the lion's mouth.
Oh right,
Ah.
yes, very good.
And I also was thinking, the zookeeper is thinking, why is there a trolley in the zoo?
There's a lot going
And
on in that zoo.
There was a lot going on. And, the next time we'd have less going on, actually. Because, in terms of story, and story is actually the basis of a lot of humor, if you like. And it's kind of, we co-create a story in our head about what the punchline is. And then suddenly the punchline gives us a whole change. That's how jokes work, is you're going along with a certain paradigm and then a punchline. Oh, and that's not what we expected. That's joke theory, if you like. But when you do improv, you think, oh, I've already got the problems. You kind of, what's the problem? The problem is there's a trolley in the lion's mouth. Okay. So we want to get it out, or we want to know why the trolley was there. Is that the problem? Have you just come from Tesco's or something like that? So I was thinking not of new ideas, but, and this is where creativity comes, I was not thinking outside the box. I was trying to think, what's in the box already?
Well, something I noticed there was actually how quickly I started to feel very comfortable with inevitable failure and in my own, I should say.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. This is Lee Simpson, one of the Comedy Store players, who was also a brilliant theatre director with Improbable Theatre. He said that really improv is your attitude to failure, because all the scenes fail, really. We never quite get a perfect ending. And that's why we have somebody saying, freeze or scene, kind of, there's a big laugh, finish. And so it's how you deal with failure, because, of course, quite often, the mistake, the failure. That's why when Amelia stopped herself, I thought that could be a whole nugget, because that often happens in an improv scene where somebody mishears or says something they didn't mean, or they couldn't remember. I couldn't remember one time the word for bollard, traffic bollard, the trafficy thing, the plasticky. And of course, that became a great offer. When somebody's saying, hello, I'm the professor of plasticky things, sort of thing. So you make a positive out of the mistake. And that attitude to failure, of course, means it's not really a failure.
Well, so many, I feel, take-home messages there. Thank you so much, Neil, for joining us on our podcast.
Well, as I say, come and see the Comedy Store players. You'll see us fail week in, week out.
It's our next trip, Jez.
Enjoying it.
Neil, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And hopefully we have recorded this and my Wi-Fi hasn't been too dodgy.
No, I think we've got
all
it.
good.
Wow. What did you make of all of that?
Yeah, it was really, really great conversation. And I think for me, having initially said that I was a bit nervous going into a topic about humour, Neil really shared how important it is to seek those moments of levity and laughter, and how that is of so much value compared to just trying to make a punchline joke in a situation where that isn't going to be appropriate. So really a lot of takeaways for me, and a newfound love for a whole area of humour.
Yeah. For me, there was like a subtlety in terms of how you sort of go after it, really. You don't have to be, as you say, the person on stage delivering the kind of the killer one-liners.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, a couple of things sort of spring to mind. I like this idea of kind of reflecting on the truths around you and how they show up differently or unexpectedly. Neil's line about the chap with the big hat, couldn't he have found a bigger hat? I thought that was interesting. I thought, the fact that there's often a smile or some joy and some laughter to be found in and around the truths that we see day in, day out.
Yeah.
And the other thing that struck me was, if you're someone that doesn't naturally feel comfortable in the limelight, simply acknowledging that someone else has said something or done something that made you smile or laugh is enough to contribute, to add to an environment where levity and lightheartedness can work its magic.
Definitely.
A really thought-provoking conversation, I think, and has broadened my perspective on what humour is.
Absolutely.
And what it can bring to a situation and how available it is as a dynamic to all of us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But there's one thing we've forgotten to do, Jez.
You're right. How could we possibly forget?
Never ever forgotten. Now, previous listeners might have noticed a little jingle for our much loved section, Boring Things About Me. We took advantage of Ben and his piano in the studio a couple of episodes ago, and we've created some jingles to help us introduce this section.
When people see me, they tend to turn away because I'm boring.
Yes, so one of our favourite sections where we take a little bit of time to explore the more ordinary, potentially boring and communal garden aspects of our lives. So go on, Amelia, you kick us off.
Okay, my boring thing about me this episode features my Sunday trip to IKEA. It firstly began with a slow journey around the North Circular.
Nice.
What's new? But arrived and headed straight for the restaurant for the obligatory...
Meatballs.
Yeah. Exactly. And then set off, fueled and ready to go round the showrooms.
Elbows out.
Yeah. Basket in hand.
Yeah.
Off we go.
Yeah.
On my list for IKEA, I had a wok, 2 lampshades, bedside table lamp, a desk chair and a toilet brush. Picking up a few bits, having recently moved flats. This is what I walked out with from IKEA.
Okay, go on.
2 lampshades, a wok, a bedside lamp, picked up 2 bulbs for my bedside lamp, a toilet brush.
Nice.
Didn't manage the desk chair. Overall, quite pleased with my list. However, in addition, I also brought home with me 5 picture frames, 2 shoe holder racks, a silicone spatula, 6 wine glasses, 2 cushion covers, 4 candles, a pan lid organiser, a rug, 2 plastic plants, and a packet of mini dime bars.
It sounds like we played the generation game.
I know. So I did completely fall for the IKEA trap of picking up something from every aisle that I seem to walk through. What about you, Jez? What have you got for us?
So for me, I'm going to go to a rich source of boring things about me.
The allotment?
The allotment, correct.
Nice.
Yeah. It's sprung into life, which is very exciting. At the weekend, I was able to harvest the first fruits of my labour. So I made a lovely courgette salad and then scoffed the whole thing, and it was absolutely delicious.
Did the family try it?
No, and I didn't let them either. This was all about me.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. The ongoing battle with horsetail continues. This is a really deep-rooted, very invasive weed that seems to spread more quickly than I can pull it up. It's a living fossil, which my kids thought was rather fitting for me to have in my allotment. But a living fossil is a plant or an animal that hasn't evolved greatly for hundreds of millions of years, apparently. But I'm not going to let that dampen my enthusiasm. The fight continues. So there we are, boring things about me.
And that's all from us this episode. Please do hit the follow button so you never miss an update from us, and give us a review on whatever channel you're listening from.
Yeah, and if you've got any suggestions on topics you'd like us to explore, or if you'd like to be a guest, or if you want to talk to us about the work we do, please do get in touch.
You've been listening to the Being Human podcast. Brought to you by Just Add Water. Nurturing individual brilliance, forging collective strength.
And then you were on holiday in Bali, right? So come on, what did you enjoy? Sorry, I went, the right was a bit...
Aggressive.
Yeah.
You will tell me about your holiday.
Yeah.
Hit it, Chris.
Na, 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 na.
Is that your...
Here come the hot step.
You know we're recording.
Oh no, that's surely not.